G'day legends, I hope that you're having a fantastic Sunday and a fantastic weekend. Now, I'm still interstate, but maybe tomorrow or the next day you will see me back in my office. But today we do have a fair bit to go over. Now, there's a hell of a lot of information out there, but it's hard to sift through. So when I get something off someone that I know that I can account for, who's on the front line, who I trust their word, it is really, really good. And multiple people over the past 24 hours actually reached out to me, giving me some information about strikes and about the situation down near Bakhmut, Chasiv Yar, and what is happening there, and how and where this may go, and the issues that are occurring down there. So that'll be fantastic. Of course, these people have to remain anonymous for where they work, what they do, all of this, but I really appreciate that. I think more information that's in my videos than maybe some people realize is actually from guys on the ground as well. Of course, we're going to talk about the Russian bomber, the Tu-22 Mark III or M3, that has gone down as well. We've got some satellite imagery from Crimea where we saw those Ukrainian attacker missiles strike either an S-300 or S-400 air defense system, and there were large claims on helicopters of that, so we'll actually look at that satellite imagery because photos don't lie, well, except until when AI comes in, and we'll look at the maps, and of course a lot of that intel will come with this. Now, we'll start off with this that I've been sent across. And this guy's been incredibly reliable. I know him. I just received information, but we're going to get an aerial assault within 72 hours of 100 drones and missiles to target our energy infrastructure and targets. Also, enemy forces have been seen to increase their aircraft activity at air bases near our borders, which indicates more FAB here. Resources will be used as well. So glide bombs, so another mass aerial assault against Ukraine from him, saying that is inbound. Now, speaking of aerial assault, what we can't ignore and we have to talk about is this Russian Tu-22 M3 going down. Now, we have some footage of this, and I really want to talk about this because this is very interesting, and I think it's interesting to speak about the possibilities here. But you can see in a Goose and Maverick flat spin coming down here on fire at the rear of the plane, and there's a few different angles, but then of course crashing in. Now, from reports we have is that 3 of the crew managed to escape with minor injuries, and 1 of the crew were killed in this crash. Now, what these were doing, of course, there was multiple of these in the air, and they launched Kh-22 missiles towards Dnipro. Of course, this one did as well. Now, this did cause huge destruction in Dnipro, and we'll talk about that maybe later on as more information comes out. Strikes are very difficult to talk about because Ukraine will instantly say residential, Russia will instantly say this was military in a residential. Getting through the weeds of any specific strike is very, very difficult. That said, in a lot of strikes, civilians are caught up in it, and that is just terrible when civilians are caught up in any strike, regardless if it's in Middle East somewhere or in Europe, where it doesn't matter where. It is a terrible, terrible thing, and the collateral damage that is occurring in the multiple wars we're seeing around the world is absolutely inexcusable. Now, the Ukrainian military intelligence spokesman Andriy Yusov has actually said that a second Tu-22 had to then actually turn around after this one got hit and didn't fire its missiles. But this has left many scratching their head as to what happened here. How was Ukraine able to shoot this down? And I think there are some reasonable arguments to be had about this. Of course, this is being confirmed with Ukraine here. Of course, they release these infographic-y things, and it has the Tu-22 here. Now, as well, only 33% of the X-22 or the KH, depending on what you want to call them, were hit. We know these are very, very difficult for Ukraine to shoot down with the lack of air defense, and 90% of the X-59, 69, depending on the variant here, can be almost impossible to hit as well. Now, yeah, GUR released this part of footage saying this is proof of the shooting down, but it's sitting somewhere at air defense battery. I don't know, that is just guys sitting there. Anyway, what we're going to go over is the possibilities of this. Now, of course, this is being confirmed with Budanov here as well, asking, you mean the destruction of this aircraft?
довго чекали, готувалися, зрештою змогли. Що я вам на це скажу?
Як це зробили, чим? Можна якісь деталі розказати?
Можу єдине сказати, літак був вражений.
The aircraft was hit at 308 kilometers, so that is a long way, and that's going to come into what we talk about.
Скажімо так, плідна і довга робота.
Same method they used to destroy the A-50, of course, that is the Russian AWACS plane.
Які ми використовували, коли знищили в повітрі літак А-50.
А скільки, за даними
And according to Ukraine, how many aircraft?
Ще є, але це перше збиття.
First destruction of a long-range aircraft. So he doesn't say how many there, but from Google, if you want to believe it, says about 66. We could say half of those or more, typically are airworthy. That goes with a lot of militaries. Look at the F-35 program. So still a lot of them left, but it is a change in that this has maybe come down. But let's talk about this. Now, put this on the Telegram. That speculation. I think equally likely number 1 and 2. Now, number 1 is Russian air defence. We have seen Russian air defence very embarrassingly have some major blue-on-blue incidents, both fighter aircraft and maybe a second A-50 as well. Although, in number 2 here is what Russia has said. They have said it was mechanical issues, engine fire. Now, these aircraft have worked in the air now for well over 2 years. These aircraft date back Soviet times. Yes, the M3, it's modernised, blah, blah, blah. A lot of the airframes are still the same. This is going to be the problem with F-16s too. It's the problem with a lot of older aircraft, whether it's Tu-160s as well. They're still an older aircraft, yes, modernised, given a new lease on life, but they're still an older airframe. And using these hard for a couple of years, you can start running into these problems. Now, the problem with this is well, are we at the curve where we're going to start seeing more and more of these issues? Now, least likely, in my opinion, is that Ukraine actually hit it. Ukraine has a massive air defence gap currently, and the protection of critical assets has taken air defence systems off the front line. So trying to protect energy infrastructure, bases, aeroplanes, all of this. We know Ukraine has massively limited air defence, as seen by drone and fighter plane freedom of movement. Now, we had on the same day this part of footage come out from Chasiv Yar, where we're going to speak about in length, with multiple Su-25 fighters here, to 4 of them, I believe. A lot of freedom of movement right over the top of Chasiv Yar, Bakhmut. Now, what people are saying is, how is Ukraine able to down a plane well over, at around 300 kilometres, and there's still freedom of movement of these missiles of other areas right on the front line. And that is a reasonable argument to have. And say, although Ukrainian sources have claimed it, and we can see for propaganda PR victories, well, it's going to be hard to prove anyway, and it doesn't matter either way because people are going to believe it either way. Again, purely speculation from the limited information that we have. Regardless, it's a huge loss for Russia, so it is a long-range strategic bomber. And either way, a large PR victory for Ukraine and potentially a capability victory. This is a loss for Russia yes, they've lost the plane, but either Ukraine has an increase in capability, which Russia needs to consider in their operations, or that Russia is having a problem with the airframe mechanical issues on these as well, that will this affect further operations down the line. Now, as well, in this fighter aircraft, bombers, these are incredibly complex and can have bloody issues. We have lost growlers on the runway before, and F-35's bloody coming off the end of things. So, mechanical issue is probably that's what Russia's saying, and I think that is the most likely. And that's what Fighter Bomber is pointing at Ukraine, saying they've just claimed it. And there's even some doubt from some very, very pro-Ukrainian accounts talking about this. So this bloke here, David, this is too far of a shot for any air defense system from Ukraine. Now, what a lot of pages are now saying is that no, the Tu-22 was hit by a modified S-200 system over the Sea of Azov, which is up here, and then managed to fly for a bit. Of course, they can go a long way. They're very fast, and then has downed. Now, I don't know. That is just what is being said. If they did shoot it down, great. But that is a long shot. And for propaganda, it would be great. Here's one of the problems that a long shot like that would run into. The radar is ground-based and would have to lock on. So the aircraft would have to be 19 kilometres in altitude for the entire flight, talking about 60,000 feet. And he puts this up with the curvature of the Earth at how high you would need to be at the distance of hit for a line of sight radar system. Now, As far as I'm aware, Ukraine doesn't have the ability for over-the-horizon radar, where some have then pointed at, well, could there be targeting from Western AWACS or drones or whatever in the sky over the Black Sea, which we know they are present, and is relaying information back to these modified systems to have done that. And, this is all things that could be possibilities. Now, this is something that I wanted to talk about. So he says 19 kilometers, and many have pointed out and go, well, these modified S-200 systems had before in the Soviet Union locked onto and painted American SR-71 Blackbirds. And I've just written this in my notes, but people talk about the late stage S-200 would fire and be close to SR-71s. Thing is, these flew much higher than a Tu-22. So let's have a look. Tu-22 ceiling height is around 14,000 meters, so 14 kilometers. What's that? 45,000? No, that's wrong. 45,000 feet, something around in that. So yeah, a bit lower. Where of course SR-71 much higher to my knowledge. Ukraine doesn't have over-the-horizon radar. Its targeting could likely be off these systems and aiding direct engagements, which we have thought has been the case before with some of this. But either way, huge PR victory for Ukraine and a loss for Russia, regardless of how it went. I'm just trying to get down to the facts. Of course, this is what firebombs is. Crest wrote down the Tu-22 for themselves, but this is the usual state of Crest. In this, they are already reminiscent of who took upon themselves in the crimes on the planet. So claiming it. We see this group here claim, you stub your toe and not claim it. Ministry of Defence announced the loss of the aircraft due to malfunction on board. Difficult to draw any definite conclusions because the MO comments on acknowledge the loss. Only the videos are already circulating online and does not comment on the loss at all in a friendly environment. Therefore, we'll wait for the end of the investigation, but at a glance, there are no signs of damage from the missile defence system. And if we get more photographs, we may see if a missile defence system has hit it, as it will be littered through with holes. So let me know, what do you think it is? I think most likely is malfunction of where it is, Ukraine's capability, and that decrease in air defence capability, where we're seeing Russia increase their air capability on the front. It just doesn't seem to line up for me. Or is Ukraine able to strike these a lot further away? Let me know. Ukraine will be getting some relief with air defence. Now, talking to some friends of mine who are more in the know about American politics, they say that this bill is very likely to pass, that we'll see tomorrow. We'll talk about it tomorrow. If it does pass in the US, for that, of course, $61 billion. But speaking after NATO-Ukraine Council Summit held by video link, Mr. Stoltenberg has said NATO defence ministers have agreed to step up and provide further military support, including more air defence. That the NATO bloc has mapped out existing capabilities across the alliance. There are systems that can be made available for Ukraine. I expect new announcements on air defence capabilities soon. So this is pledged, we don't know yet, but Patriots and other advanced systems to go in. This is where Ukraine is having the biggest lack, and that is affecting the front line massively, is air defence. So you can see where my doubts start creeping in when a system that has never been hit before, way behind the line, has then been shot down by one of these systems. We need to speak about the airbase that was hit down in Crimea by Ukrainian attackers. Of course, we got that one photo that looked to be an S-300 or 400 system destroyed. Now, we have some satellite imagery. Now, originally the claims here were massive. People claiming dozens of helicopters, as typically there are dozens of helicopters here. So we can see site of missile strikes. It does look to be some damage down around in this location, and nothing too obvious, but you may be able to see some areas, of course this is clouds, some areas that have had some level of strike, maybe around here. I don't see anything as super obvious, but we'll continue through. This is the zoom in on that spot, said to be where that either S-300 or S-400 system was. And yep, this is looking pretty obvious that it was something. There is a big difference if it was S-300 or 400 for the amount of replacement Russia has for the system, as well as then the cost of that system. Now, as we zoom in up into that corner, traces of fire, said to be ammo storage up here, where there has said to be some fire and strikes around here. Again, I don't know. I don't think anything here is super conclusive of, conclusive of anything major here. What people did want to see is all these bays, of course, what sunken in, but is massive amounts of helicopters destroyed in here, Mi-8s, Kar-52s, all of that, which these don't show. But we do know that there was ability to strike in through there, through the air defense, and take out at least a system in there, whether it is S-300 or 400. Now, let's have a look at the maps and the intel being sent. So, of course, this is Ukraine, the capital of Kyiv. Red areas occupied since 22, and the purple since 2014. Now, where we have to come down is into Bakhmut. So, have a look at this. Now, there is no change on this map, but we know that the situation here is critical, especially Chasiv Yar could be a massive fulcrum for this whole situation in here, as it is the end of that high ground, or has the high ground down into Kramatorsk and Sloviansk, of course, these major areas in the Donbass. So let's look at what then I was sent across. Now, he said to me, can I share this? Now, there are some parts of this I can't share word for word, and I will do it myself from some other people, but as well, something has to be said and they don't have a voice. A lot of people reach out to me because of situations like this, that, you know, they're super pro optimistic one. They won't say it. They know that I'll say it. So I appreciate people coming out with it. Now, from the written statement, I'm just going to reword it myself, but due to the sensitive nature, of course. But in a nutshell, that Ukrainian Special Operations Forces from the GUI and SBU have been deployed into the outskirts of Chasiv Yar, so in here, to fight back against the Russians and kick them out of the eastern outskirts. As he says, the same thing happened in Bakhmut and several other locations. There's a late deployment of soft units, which is not the job of these units that the command has decided to deploy last minute. That he sees it as, quote, waste of the most highly skilled men and resources, and yet no one in command has been held accountable for this. So deploying in late to try and hold this back, and he was sort of on these messages, which I can't show, saying it's a lot late to be doing this with these specific troops who should be working in areas behind the line or small tactical teams. So we're going to get more of this here. So these are the ones that I can show. It's the same thing time and time again. Ukrainian command, when up against the wall, will use their country's senior special forces to conduct the role of line infantry in the hopes it'll make a change. It never does, as it's not their role. From Severodonetsk, Lysychansk and Bakhmut, what should only be used at the strategic level, stuck in a trench, their top snipers wrongly utilised and unable to act as snipers, at times with a 50-metre field of view, utterly wasted. Time after time, they aren't learning from their mistakes, but making the same ones over and over. It's unforgivable, and the boys are completely aware of this, and it's shameful. Not to forget the fact of over a year of training to be in GUR SBU Alpha. These people can't be replaced at the drop of a hat. So saying basically what someone else said as well here. VDV, who we know are coming into that Chasiv Yar, are led by Spetsnaz, Russian Special Forces. They're in small teams, utilising hit-and-run tactics along with their joint fires capability, and it's working well. And they're gaining ground fast. Small, hard, fast teams in and out. Something Ukrainians should be doing, and that's what I would do. The Russians are constantly learning and amending their tactics. The Ukrainian command needs a punch in the head for years of lazy incompetence. Remember, this isn't just some random. I wish after the war this guy will speak to me. I'm 100% sure. We speak often. I know it's hard because I'm a guy on the internet telling you this, but it's not just some random telling this. And we'll bring up then this map that he's sent across with me. So looking at this, relevant to this, they were basically using mobilised soldiers in the 67th Brigade there, right sector. These are volunteer units that aren't what we'd call military or understand the defensive tactics needed to hold that ground. Ultimately, it's now lost, and it's not their fault, it's command's. And now they've sent their best SF, Special Forces, to hold it. That won't work. So speaking about this movement of Chasiv Yar, look where Kramatorsk, Sloviansk areas we're still talking about right in here, and in the north and down near Krasnohivka too. That speaking about the holding this position and what will actually then occur. So then we need to speak down to this one here, which is then this map. So the worry now is a potential assault from the Russians from the north, and simultaneously the east from the Bakhmut axis on Kramatorsk and Sloviansk. So we have Bakhmut axis here towards Kramatorsk, as well as a push in the north, and coming down we see Sloviansk here, that there will be a movement. Let's bring up this map. If the Russians are able to get ground in the north, that they will come straight down on Kramatorsk and straight west on Kramatorsk as well. The assault over the river in the north with these, that he's saying this is the big problem here, the advance of Sloviansk and Kramatorsk from the north and east, then squeezing that down. Now I can't tell this guy how much I appreciate on the ground realistic shit like that, and I'm happy. I don't care if it makes me unpopular with someone somewhere. I am happy to talk about this. Now let's look at why then Chasiv Yar is so important. Now you'll see, let's bring up that other map quickly. So we'll see on this, we have Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, Chasiv Yar, Bakhmut. So here we have Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, it's here, Chasiv Yar, Bakhmut. You can see the high ground, this dot here is approximately where the Russians are up to. And of course, this area is under control of those Su-25 fighters as well. And of course, the Su-34s with FABs and other carriers of those too, but primarily those, into here to get that high ground and the assault on here. And potentially we keep hearing the ISW and other elements saying that Russia has built up massively in the north for a northern push as well. And these areas are critical in the Donbass, the largest population centers. So very interesting there. Deployments and situation changing very rapidly on that location. Now, let's have a look at, of course, the deep state map. Now, there are very, very little changes. There are no changes up north or, will this load? Or in Bakhmut. All that we see here is a color change, so it's hard to see, but that is nothing. But Pervomayesk, this is what we talked about yesterday's map, Syriac. We said, it's funny because Syriac is saying that the Russians are down right to where this waterway is here. Now, since yesterday and today, Deep State MOD map has then shown this, that it's shown that there is grey zone leading down to there, but as well near Develsky, it does show that there is a pullback or an advancement. We're not sure if it was advancement. Actually, it would be blue by Ukraine. So the Russians have had a withdrawal here somewhere, but also that push down. Oh my God. Sorry, my internet here is so slow. We see Nevelsky and this movement right there, which is actually lining up with what Syriac hasn't had a map today, but he writes this: regarding Pervomayesk, information was received about how there is no one left in this pocket right here. However, the Russians have not entered yet. Combing operations are slow there. Possibly troops will continue to Nevelsky to help expand perimeter around the small settlement. So this southerly push down here, which is seemingly to line up. Now, no changes in Krasnodarivka, but just to the south in Badiinka, we do see a large shift here closing up between Podbeda and the outskirts of Hurovka here. So this movement from this road right up into these tree lines, that is major, because what we believe the overall movement here is to try and push out around here and encompass this whole area, cutting this supply down Vuhledar, Konstantinivka, Novomyalivka. As we know, there is advancement through the center of Novomyalivka as well. Now this Vuhledar front, I'll call it that down here, we barely ever see any movement in and around here out from the west of Solodki. So let's have a look, because we see something today. We just see a grey zone expansion on the Ukrainian map just here. Funnily enough, this lines up exactly with what we see on Syriac map. Of course, he has it in red, but we can see this is where this road turns. So it's the same road, exact same area. Russian army reopened the axis of Solodki, taking control of some positions previously lost at the end of February, along with new ones there. So a movement there to try and shorten, close up the front line, and of course create a higher density of troops here. Now, legends, I believe that is all that I have for you today. It is. Have a great rest of the week. I'll speak to you. Oh my God, I've hiccups. I'll do my best to speak to you tomorrow. I am traveling tonight and tomorrow, so if World War III opens up, you know who to blame. But have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.